Realistically speaking, you're not going to enjoy every part of your language journey. Sometimes it may be a specific class you're taking, whether it is the topic of the class, or a grammatical point, or even the way that the teacher explains the concept to you. Sometimes there are grammatical concepts when we're self-studying that just make us want to tear our hair out, and that's normal. However, there are other things that can be stealing your joy in your language journey that you don't even realize, and because you're not aware of it, they just continue to steal your joy, and then one day, or at least it feels like one day, you suddenly wake up and say, I don't really feel like studying languages anymore, and you don't know why. Being aware of these things that I'm about to share can really help you avoid getting into burnout, a rut, or even wanting to quit one day. The first thing to watch out for is not being present in your language journey. But what does that mean? It can look like thinking about the future too much. It's great to set goals. People in the language community, online and in person, talk about that all the time. I think goals are very important. They help you kind of set your sight on something and then you're able to go for that thing. They give you something to aim for rather than just wandering around aimlessly, and you're able to make real progress because you have something that you're looking forward to. But if you get in the mindset of only trying to accomplish goals, which can be fun, it can give you a bit of an adrenaline rush to cross something off of the list and feel like you achieved something. If you're always looking forward and never looking at the present, you won't appreciate what's in front of you, and it'll feel like you're running on a treadmill and not actually reaching that thing because you're always trying to reach for the next thing. This can also look like looking at the past too much. It's good to look at the past to see your progress, how much you've grown, but sometimes we look at the past too much. This can look like ruminating on something bad, regrets that we have about our language journey, something embarrassing that happened, wishing we had done things differently, instead of actually doing that thing differently and learning from it and applying that to the present. It can also look like looking in the past at the glory days when things were better if you're going through a rough time, and then just wishing that you could have that again without actually changing anything in the present to make yourself feel better. It's good to reflect on the past for a little bit, and it's good to look forward to the future. But if you're looking at either one of those with no balance and not focusing on the present at all, then that can steal joy from your language journey because you are currently living in the present. This is what you can change. This is what you can affect, or that you can have an effect on right now. This goes right into my second point, which is balance. I just gave a couple of examples concerning time, but you can also have a lack of balance when it comes to enjoyment and doing activities that you like. For instance, if you're not doing any activities that you enjoy, you don't make any time for that in your language routine, then you're not going to enjoy what you're learning. It's going to feel like work all the time, and not having at least one thing that you enjoy, even a little bit, not having that balance can really throw you off. It can make you feel like you're just dreading this because it feels like a chore. It feels like something you have to work for, when most of the time people learn languages because they enjoy them. Sometimes people learn them because they have to. Regardless of why you're learning the language, it is important to include activities that you enjoy in your routine. It can also look like having too much fun built into your routine and not progressing. Of course, we love to watch TV and read books and browse the internet in our favorite language, but if you're only doing fun things all the time and you're not setting time aside for the hard things that you may not enjoy, such as reading a textbook or learning a grammatical concept or whatever it is that you have to do that you don't necessarily enjoy, but you know in your heart will move you forward in your language journey, if you don't include any of that and it's just all fun and games, eventually you won't progress, which won't be fun and games anymore because you're going to be frustrated at your lack of progress. The next point is an assassin of language learning, perfectionism. This is a very difficult topic to tackle. It is good to want to do things correctly. So I just want to say it is not a bad thing to want to do things right and in general to want to do a good job and put your best effort forward. You can still do that without being a perfectionist and putting so much pressure on yourself to get everything right, because that's not realistic. And when you're dealing with something as a human being, then you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, and you learn from them. That's the nice part about them, even though they may not be fun and they may actually be embarrassing sometimes. You learn from them and you can move on that way. But if you're stuck in this perfectionistic mindset, then it can be very damaging to your language routine, because you're putting this pressure on yourself to meet expectations which are impossible to meet. And if you prolong that feeling for a long time, you will get discouraged. And if you are discouraged for too long, you'll eventually want to quit. Or maybe instead of being discouraged, you're frustrated. Perfectionism is a beast, but Ophelia Vert and I tackled that in an Assassins of Language Learning interview, which I will link within the video and in the description box so you can reference that. It was fun talking to each other, and the ironic thing about that interview was that that was the only one that I can remember that had a technical difficulty, which we were talking about perfectionism and things being perfect, and then that ended up not being perfect because of the technology. But that just makes it even more real. The next point is comparison, which is another assassin of language learning. Comparing yourself to others, whether it's in a positive way, as in positive for you and not the other person, does a disservice to that person. Saying things, not to their face, but, when you're sitting at your computer desk or whatever you're doing, and you're looking at other people on social media, on YouTube, and saying, well, I think I'm doing well because I don't have their level and they're a beginner. Or you're talking yourself down by saying, they have such a great level and they've been learning for less time than me. I must be a terrible language learner. Both of those are damaging. It damages your view of the other person who you probably don't even know in person, and you're in this imaginary competition with them, and it damages your view of yourself as a language learner. And if you do that, you will steal all the joy out of your language journey, because you're being hard on yourself, and that's not going to help you move forward. Sometimes comparison can motivate you in healthy doses if you do it in a way that is not extreme, but if you take it to an extreme, like wanting to do things right, which turns into perfectionism, then that can end up being a bad thing. It could be hurtful to your language routine. We looked into what you think and how that can affect things such as perfectionism and comparison, but another thing that we do that can steal the joy out of our language journey is caring too much what others think. This can lead to people pleasing and decisions that actually take the joy out of our language learning and affect our language routine. Whether it is a negative comment or feedback that you receive from somebody else saying the language you're learning is useless, or just somebody saying that you're a terrible language learner but not giving any constructive criticism that you can learn and grow from. It can be hard to see those kinds of comments or hear that kind of feedback from somebody else. It can be hard to hear that the language you're learning is useless and not care about it, because then you start to question whether you should learn something else that's more useful. But you're really freeing yourself when you're not caring so much what other people think, because it allows you to do what you enjoy and remember why you're learning this language and be able to reach those goals. People's thoughts get in the way, and most of the time they have nothing to do with our goals. They don't even want to take the time to know why you're studying this language or anything. They just want to criticize you and ruin your day, which is a really sad, sad thing to experience, and a sad thing that they're doing that in the first place. I did make a video about receiving feedback if you struggle with receiving it because you're worried about negative comments, and then of course what to do if you do receive feedback that is negative. I will link those videos in the description box within the video, as well as resources for you to reference. And finally, the last point is complacency. I like to say that our language journey isn't meant to be on autopilot, and that as we grow and change as people and with our knowledge, The things that we use, whether it's the resources or the methods, our routine, will grow and change to fit that new knowledge and the skills that you have. This one is a silent assassin of language learning, which I have not done an interview about this topic, but it's silent because it just sneaks up on you without realizing it. You're in this groove, this routine, which is good for you when you're trying to make progress and you're getting used to finding the things that work for you. However, if you find that you're hitting a plateau in your language learning and the resources that you're learning from are no longer pushing you forward but just kind of keeping you at the same level, you may be getting complacent. Even if you still enjoy that resource, if you know it back and forth, inside out, you have it memorized, you know all the answers, and you're just reciting them instead of recalling them, then you may have an issue with complacency. That may be something that you're dealing with. It's good to mix things up once in a while. It gets our brain working. It's kind of like how when you're doing work, people say that it's good to mix up your environment once in a while. Say that you're studying in your room, which some people say that they can't do, but just say that you're studying in your room, and then one day you decide to go to the library instead. Doing that every once in a while can help you because you kind of get stuck in that same place for a while. And then you can't move forward if you're stuck. The thing about all of these points that I mentioned is that these are things that we are in control of. And that's actually something I wanted to mention a little bit earlier when I was talking about caring what people think too much. When we care what people think too much, we're giving them power over our language journey that they really don't have. If you think about it, you have to take ownership and responsibility because it's your journey, it's not theirs. They can say everything that they want to say about it, they can tell you the language you're learning is useless, but it's really up to you to use that language. It's up to you to do with whatever resources you have or methods you use or the feedback that you get. It's up to you to choose what to do with all of that, whether you decide to continue or reevaluate what you're doing. And with all of these points that I mentioned, not being rooted in the present, complacency, perfectionism, comparison, caring what others think, not having balance in your language journey, these are all things that you can control. And these are all things that can steal your joy. Watch out for them, and if you notice them come up, know that you can take full responsibility for them. This is not in somebody else's hands, not in your teacher or tutor's hands, not in your language exchange partner's hands. This is up to you. So own it and start moving forward today. That's it for this week. I hope that you found this video helpful and that it makes you more self-aware in your language journey and that you can recultivate that joy that you may have had before but felt that you lost. Let me know. Do you struggle with any of these? Did you not even realize it before? How do you work through any of these? You can connect with me on social media and in the comments section here, but on social media at PassionforLang on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos on language learning mindset. And if you have any video ideas, please send me a message, drop a comment, whatever, let me know because I love to know what you would like to know about and how I can best help you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!